This is a 1988 Porsche 944. And unlike the GOAT Doug DeMiro, I don't have a Porsche of my own, so I'm driving it in Assetto Corsa. You see, I'm a bit of a Porsche fanatic, and I've always thought the 944s had some of the best styling when it comes to 1980s sports cars. I love 80s cars in general, but the 944 is definitely one of my favorites. Now, I've wanted one of these for years, but I've been really saving up for my first house, and I've been doing a good job. However, after some thinking, I came up with a little challenge for myself. I'm going to take this 944 for a lap around the Nordschleife, the longest and most challenging track in the world. It's very simple, no practice or warm-up, and I only get one lap to make it around the track with no mistakes and no crashes. If I crash, well, I'm going to have to fork over some hard-earned YouTube revenue and buy this car in real life. If I make it around a full lap successfully, which I've done hundreds of times in many different cars, then I guess I get to save some money and keep working towards my very important life goal of home ownership. This might be a very bad idea, but, yeah. Alright, here we are at the Nordschleife. The stakes are high, we're in the 944, and I really don't know how this car is going to handle on a racetrack, to be honest. I guess we'll see. So I did just drive this on the LA Canyons map for just a little bit to get a little intro, so I have somewhat of an idea of what this car handles like, but not what I'm going to be pushing it to its limits around a racetrack. So here we go around the first corner and into this first section of the lap. This section can actually be quite difficult. There's a lot of quick lefts and rights in quick succession, one after another, already dealing with a little bit of understeer. Oh boy, this might be a little tricky. Yeah, it definitely feels a little bloated through the corners. Definitely not as responsive as other cars I've driven around the Nordschleife, but we're making do so far. A little bit sketchy right there, almost on the grass. I'm really trying to attack the inside curbs to try to mitigate some of that understeer on corner exit. But, yeah, I'm definitely feeling a little bit of understeer here. If you haven't noticed, this car isn't the fastest thing in the world. It's only got about 200-ish horsepower, so it's not like a rocket ship in a straight line. We're gonna try to keep it flat out up the hill now at the crest. The front end lifts up a little bit, I can feel it. Just a slight tap of the brakes as soon as we kind of touch the front wheels back down, and we're settled again. So this car is one of the last front-engined Porsches that they made before they started making the SUV. So the transmission is in the rear, which gives it pretty close to a 50-50 weight distribution. So it feels kind of like a go-kart. But so far into some of the tighter corners, it feels a little sketchy, especially right here, almost off the track. That was a close one. All right, well, I'm definitely noticing a pattern of understeer through most of the corners, but that's something we'll deal with later. Right now, it's all about top speed, heading down the hill, attacking the curbs as much as we can, and this is feeling really nice. Up into this braking zone, braking maybe a little bit too early, trying to avoid that understeer. I guess that was a lot a bit too early. All right, well, we're doing okay so far. I'm not gonna lie, we're doing all right. I'm definitely feeling a little sluggish through some of the corners, especially high-speed stuff. I'm really trying to get the braking down before I enter the corners. A little bit sketchy at mid-corner right there, but up here, like even this braking zone is just a little bit hard to judge, just because I don't really know if I can trust the brakes fully on this car. It doesn't really feel like it has too much stopping power, probably just because it's kind of just a plain old sports car. Anyway, kind of a sharp right-hander right here. Understeer's kicking in, almost off the track, using the exit curb a little bit right there. Oh, okay. All right, we made it through that last section pretty well. We've got a couple challenging corners coming up. The rear end kind of sticks out under braking. We've no ABS on, so luckily we don't lock the front wheels, but the rear end kind of kicked out right there. We're gonna let the rev limiter scream at us for a second here. Third gear, shifting down a second into the braking zone. Gonna really try to attack the curbs here. Maybe we can make this a pretty good line. It looks like it is. We've got an uphill right coming up to kind of exit this series of corners, and it's working out pretty well. So I guess I'm getting used to the car. Okay, I'm not gonna lie. At the start, I was a little, nervous, given the understeer in the first section, and then also the high-speed understeer, and almost falling off the track. But we're doing pretty well. I've been really good at saving money for this house. I mean, it's the American dream and I'm really excited about it. But this would definitely be a big chunk of change out of that savings account gone. Anyway, breaking into the corners before the carousel, a little bit early right there. Could have been slightly later to make the lap a little bit faster, but we're not really worried about time. A little slight kick of oversteer on exit right there. Now we're inching our way towards the carousel. We're gonna see how this car performs on a banked turn, and it's okay. It's a little slow. There's not much downforce, so yeah. Man, I had so many plans to buy a house and do all these things. We're past the halfway point of this lap now, so it's getting a little scary.
I had a goddamn plan!
Okay, heading into this left turn. This one's a little bit weird. It's kind of a double apex, really struggling to keep the car on the line. We keep it through the left, into the right now, downhill. We're trying to keep it on the track. We can't do it. Off the track, on the grass completely. Luckily, we stay out of the wall, but definitely struggling with a lot of understeer right there. All right, well, we only have a handful of corners until we get onto the final straight. And after that, we're pretty much done with the lap. So this car is handling pretty well, as much as we've been complaining about a little bit of understeer, just like it is right there. This car is really doing a pretty good job around the Nordschleife. This is the hardest track in the world, and this is an entry-level Porsche model from the 80s. So obviously it's not the fastest thing in the world. It has pretty much no downforce. It's just a very basic sports car. However, yeah, it's doing pretty well. But we only have a couple of corners till we reach the back straight. However, the sun glare is so bad I can barely see the track. It's really difficult to see where I'm going on the grass. Completely took that way too fast. Really struggling to keep the car centered on the track. Off the track again, and we hit the barrier. That's a crash. Yeah, I'm a man of my word. This is my 1984 Porsche 944, and I might be a little bit biased, but it's absolutely beautiful. It's common for 944s to be neglected by their owners since it was an entry-level model to the Porsche lineup. However, this one has been cared for its entire life. Its engine was fully rebuilt in 2019, the paint is immaculate, it's on 911 wheels, every single electronic part works. For a 40-year-old car, there's not a single issue, and it drives like a dream. Looking into the interior now, you can see a leather dashboard, a 5-speed manual gearbox, and enough space in the backseat for a baby with no legs or maybe a jacket and a fire extinguisher. The outside of the car is incredibly styled, as I mentioned at the beginning of the video. I've got pop-up headlights, harsh lines, the rear has wide hips, and the taillights have such a retro look. This 944 is genuinely a beautiful car. I have to say, driving this car feels much better than that lap on Assetto Corsa. It feels nimble and incredibly light, and although this model is a naturally aspirated 150 horsepower engine, it's definitely quick out of the corners. Obviously, I'm on public roads and not a racetrack, so I'm not pushing the car to its absolute limit, but still, it's pretty sweet. So as I mentioned earlier, these aren't the fastest cars in the Porsche family. However, the near 50-50 weight distribution makes them incredibly fun to drive and stable in the corners. This model had a naturally aspirated 150 horsepower 4-cylinder engine, which isn't much by today's standards, but back then it was a well-powered sports car. I bought this from someone who didn't really drive it all that often, so I'm glad to give it a home where it can be put back on the road. I'm definitely going to make more content with this car once the winter's over, so stay tuned because this thing is an absolute blast. Purchasing this car has definitely eaten into my savings account, but even after driving it for a few minutes, I knew it was worth it. I know this is a bit sappy, but part of the reason this is possible is because of you guys watching. I love cars and racing, and I've been able to turn my passion for those things into a community for others, which is super cool. I don't have the biggest channel ever, but I love the engagement you guys provide and the love you show my videos. This dream was definitely fulfilled in part by you guys, so seriously, thank you. Anyway, but yeah, I bought a 40-year-old Porsche and it is genuinely the most fun I've ever had. This thing has so many redeeming qualities, so expect more videos about this car in the future. If you have any questions about it, feel free to leave a comment down below and I'll try my best to answer you. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.